Okay, we've got Caroline Bremner, Head of Travel and Tourism Research at Euromonitor International. You've produced your Global Trends Report 2011. One of the hot topics on the floor is London 2012. Your report suggests that alternative accommodation options could be a real trend in the UK next year. Did you want to maybe explain a bit more about that?
Yes, we've identified a concept called Camping in My Garden, which is really taking off at the moment. It provides an alternative to the hotel option. There's been much press, reports about high levels of rates being charged, sometimes up to 5 times more than the standard rate for hotels. So this is really off-putting for consumers. And so alternative concepts such as Camping in My Garden are like a real attractive alternative. This enables consumers to bypass traditional means of accommodation, but equally it's an interesting way to meet local Londoners and also to experience the real London. So staying in somebody's garden, say for £15 a night, it's very, very cheap. It also means that you can meet your host. They may make you breakfast. Also, you may be able to take advantage of the facilities that are in that particular house. If it's a luxury house, you may have access to the sort of jacuzzi or things like that. But it's a nice way to sort of holiday local and authentically.
Okay, and just in terms of London 2012, how does Euromonitor International see that affecting the UK inbound and possibly the outbound tourism market?
Well, the outlook for UK is we're expecting a growth of around 2 to 3%. So this means that there will be growth. Obviously, this is taking into account displacement. The industry is highly polarised regarding the Olympics. So there are many who are expecting to be, and for there not to be a very particular positive effect on the industry. But we've tried to take a balanced view. So we expect, yes, around about 3%. And this is going to be boosted particularly by European neighbours such as Germany, France and Holland, who will take advantage of the low-cost flights, Eurostar, to come to the UK and to enjoy the Olympics with us.
And do you see any benefits for UK regional tourism as a result of the Olympics being hosted in London?
Yes, well obviously the Olympics isn't just in London, so it's in the south. We also have events in the north as well. We've also got, for example, events coming off the back of the Olympics. For example, the Grandmasters hockey tournament which will take place in Oxford, that my dad is actually appearing in. So, you know, there's lots of events that are taking place, and also the likes of Visit Scotland are working on the sort of cultural part to ensure that they can take advantage of the Cultural Olympiad. So all the sort of regional tourism boards are getting on the back of the Olympics to make sure that we can benefit from the 4 billion TV audience that Visit Britain are expecting next year.
Another sort of hot topic on the floor of WTM 2011 has been sports tourism. Moving on from specifically the Olympics, is sports tourism an area that Euromonitor International has looked at? And if so, how do you see that sector developing over the next few years?
Yes, we've published a report on sports tourism this year, and we looked at obviously the risks and also the opportunities associated with holding high-profile events such as the FIFA World Cup or the Olympic and Paralympic Games. For example, if you take South Africa in 2010 for the FIFA World Cup, it was a great success. They managed to change consumer perceptions about their destination. They were able to say that we are a safe and a friendly destination, and many people's perceptions were changed forever. So it was a very successful event. We even saw arrivals go up by 10% in that year, but then the following year there was a bit of a drop post-event. On the other hand, you have countries such as Delhi, which saw the negative side with the sort of the pre-event run-up, concerns about infrastructure, concerns about safety. So it's almost like a poison chalice. But you really do have to take the rough with the smooth. It's a massive media opportunity, And as I said, a 4 billion TV audience for London next year is something to really focus on and to ensure that countries get maximum exposure to that level of consumer attention.
Okay. You mentioned South Africa. I mean, as the leading industry event for the travel industry, World Travel Market likes to look at the global perspective, as indeed does Euromonitor International. The Trends Report 2011 that you put out talked about mobile phone technology and commerce as being an area in which Africa is leading the world. Could you maybe just explain why you think that's the case, and as well as the very sort of specific travel benefits, you know, socially and economically, it seems that mobile commerce could be a very significant factor in Africa's development over the next decade.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's a very interesting concept. And what we've seen in Africa is that mobile telephones, the adoption rate has been very, very fast. And they've managed to bypass the traditional steps, if you like, in terms of infrastructure. So this means that we currently have 500 million mobile phone users in Africa. And this is in urban and rural areas. So it's spread very, very fast. And as you say, it helps because of concepts such as M-Pesa, which is owned by Safaricom, which is owned by Vodafone. M-Pesa has enabled normal Africans who don't have a bank account, who are unbanked, to have access to products and services that they wouldn't normally have access to because they don't have a bank account. So this means that 230 million Africans now have access to airline tickets, hotels, which they can pay for through their M-Pesa mobile transfer service.
So is mobile an equivalent to, say, how in sort of Asia Pacific there was an argument that because there wasn't necessarily a large telecoms infrastructure, they were able to sort of bypass having to upgrade old systems and just put new systems in place? Is that a similar dynamic in Africa with the mobile phone? There are no old bank accounts to have to upgrade. The bank accounts are essentially mobile bank accounts.
That's right. It means that they don't have to sort of go through the processes that we may have had to in the West, all the different stages to get to where we are now. They can leapfrog that. And it means that they can transfer money simply through their mobile device. So this means that they can also receive their salaries through this. And yes, it could be that the banking infrastructure just isn't there at the moment, and it may be that it doesn't develop in the same way as we've seen in the West.
Moving continents, the Americans have always led the way when it comes to technology, and the trend that Euromonitor International picked up is what you called the gamification of travel, which in simple terms I think is just travel being more fun, more, you know, the computer games on a travel website to generate bookings and, you know, interest and awareness and branding. I mean, is this just a sort of flash in the pan, or can this actually develop and become a genuine marketing and revenue channel for European travel companies?
Well, what we've seen is that gamification is a sort of sub-trend of the general social media phenomenon, which has obviously taken the whole world and especially the travel industry by storm. So gamification is the use of gaming in non-gaming environments. For example, in travel, we've seen the very good example of Ireland Town, which was launched by Tourism Ireland. And this enables consumers to go online, to go on Facebook, to go and play on the net and enjoy just having fun with these social games. It also enables consumers to share their experiences. There's also a loyalty element, so you can gain points, rewards, status symbols. And so it's a really great way of engaging with consumers. And that obviously builds brand loyalty and also ultimately will help make that transaction and build that customer loyalty and engagement.
And you've done this report now for a number of years. Figures that have been released at World Travel Market 2011 seem to indicate that the travel industry is growing slowly but surely. WTO is expecting a 6% growth in Europe. The WTTC is looking at 3.5%. I mean, how do you see the global travel market, and what areas do you think have the potential to grow beyond that, and which areas do you think are going to continue to struggle?
Well, what we're seeing is that, yes, the general trend is upwards, but there is a slowdown. And obviously the travel industry is highly linked to what happens in the wider economy. We depend on disposable income, and obviously luxury is also sort of big ticket item. So we're also competing with consumers' purchases in other industries, whether that's for a big sort of white goods or a new television. So there's going to be increasing pressure on consumers, particularly in Europe, now that we have the ongoing sovereign debt crisis that just doesn't seem to be resolving itself and may sort of continue spiralling out of control for the next couple of months. So that is a concern for travel and tourism. We have a highly uncertain environment in Europe. So this means what we have is a slowdown in the advanced nations, but on the other hand, we have very strong growth from the emerging markets, such as Asia, Middle East and Latin America. So even though we've just come through the Arab Spring, we're still continuing to see growth in the middle classes in the Middle East. And when you look across the emerging markets, the middle classes are growing by 6% a year. And all that helps as a tipping point for travel, international travel, as well as domestic travel.
Thank you. No, is that okay?
Yep.
Absolutely.